Hello everyone, time for another Wargaming update. Haven't been terribly productive of late. Had about 5 days holiday and didn't really do much during the hot weather. I preferred sort of trying to get out and about, flying the drone and so on, going on walks rather than sitting indoors painting in the heat with sweaty palms and the paintbrush slipping and all that kind of thing, paint drying too quickly. So I have got a little bit achieved. I'll start by showing you these three figures here, which are from Curtis Miniatures. They're originally they're another group of figures that I purchased originally alongside the set of walls called Cross Lances, which is a jousting game. It never really took hold, wasn't a great success as a game. Still haven't played it. I'm doing a little bit of preparation now. It's one of the things I've found. I mean, it's about 10 years ago I think it was published. Not available any longer, and yeah, I've only really just started getting to grips with the rules and preparing for it, and there is a lot of preparation that I hadn't anticipated, such as you have to print off a set of 30 cards for each player, so you're only supplied with one set that you can use from the book. So it means that, you know, you've got to photocopy them and so on, and other things as well. And a good indication of the way the game didn't really get going was I paid £20 for this group of figures. Came complete with bases and transfers as well, but you can get the same group on Curtis' website for £14.40 now. So even, you know, 10 years later, and with all the inflation we've had since then, they're still £6 cheaper than they were their original price. But anyway, enough of that, because I'm very pleased with them. This group are, I don't think I told you, John de Vere, the 7th Earl of Oxford. Now, I left this group, I purchased 4 sets and left this to the very end because everybody who's got a medieval army more or less has got a representation of one of the de Veres, because the coat of arms is so easy to reproduce. It's not terribly difficult heraldry, but I was a bit thick and I left this till the end because I thought, yeah, it's a bit kind of routine to do another de Vere, but then of course, if you've seen my earlier videos where I've shown you some of these figures before, the transfers that they come with are virtually impossible to you know, fit to the figure with all the curves and folds and so on. And they're the transparent kind of decals where you have to paint the background white, a bit like the Gripping Beast ones. And of course, with all those gaps between the transfer and the surface of the model, the paint, when you come to then paint the figure, the paint just runs underneath the transfer and obliterates the detail. So I left it till the end for that reason as well. And then, of course, the penny dropped. Well, I could easily paint the heraldry for this guy, so that's what I did. I ignored the decals. I just used them on the flat shields, but even there I had to sort of paint over them quite a lot in order to get the colours that I'd used to kind of match more exactly. So you could, you know, do away with the transfers for this group, which is what I did. And yeah, my main intention really is to use the 2 figures with the flail as or ball and chain rather, as you know, figures for Baron's War. The figure with the lance the lance has got a jousting tip on the end, so it's called a coronel, and it's meant to represent a knight at the joust. So not really ideal, for a war game. But as I say, I am going to have a game, at least after all these years and all this effort. I'm going to try out cross lances as well. But now I'm not just going to confine myself to these four groups of knights. I'm going to paint some other figures up as well, and some buildings, and do it properly. I've spent long enough, so I might as well wait a little bit longer and do it properly, rather than just have the basics on the table. Okay, yeah, I think that's everything I've got to say on this set. So on to the next thing. Okay, so next up, 3 more figures from 1898 miniatures, which are available in the UK through Empress Miniatures. These are more Berbers for my Beau Geste project. Berbers with traditional hairstyles and swords. And these come out of a purchase I made at Colours last year. And I've very nearly finished that purchase of the Berbers, at least. I haven't even started on the Foreign Legion figures. But yeah, I'm slowly building up quite a nice little group of mounted Berbers for my games, and pleased with the way they turned out. The metal is very soft, and there was a certain amount of damage to some of these figures. In particular, one of the horses was missing a hoof, and I had to well, it wasn't missing it, I just couldn't get it, it was detached and I couldn't get it to reapply, so I made another hoof out of a bit of milliput, and it didn't look particularly good to begin with, but now I can barely make out which horse it was that was missing the hoof. So that turned out right. And yeah, tempted to paint some stripes on the figure on the grey horse that's just going by, on his coat, but that didn't work out brilliantly. But didn't want them all to have kind of really plain and drab coloured clothing. Okay, now next group of figures is quite large, so I won't be able to put them on the turntable. I have to put them onto a flat surface to show you them all. Right, so these are a collection of boxes, various figures, all from Ironclad Miniatures, but various sort of groups. There's flag bearers, there's a rocket in there with crew, some commanders, and different bags, described differently, attacking with swords or attacking with spears, that kind of thing. So it's a bit of a mix. I like these figures from the point of view. Let's just zoom in a little bit so you can see them a little bit better. Yeah, I like them from the point of view that they have kind of the appropriate dress on them, and sort of peasant clothing, and then they're distinguishing themselves as being part of the Boxer movement by wearing bits and pieces of red clothing, so sashes and turbans and scarves and that kind of thing, armbands, which is historically accurate. So they're better from that point of view than, say, the Atlantic plastic figures. But the detail on them is a little bit kind of plain. There's not really very much you can do to them to bring out, to make them pop. as it were, when you paint them. And interestingly, if you look at the Ironclad website, they have got painted figures on there as examples, and they don't look, a lot different from what I've done with these. So it just shows that you're a little bit limited in what you can do with them. One thing I was hoping to do and I gave up on was the figures that have got the sort of whiter garments on. I was thinking of attempting to paint some Chinese characters on them, but they all turned out to not really have a great deal of room to do that. They weren't like, for instance, this guy here is holding his weapon across his chest, and it makes it a little bit harder. So I gave up on that in the end anyway. I just sort of thought I'll just paint them and get them on the Wargaming table. And the banners they're available through Victorious Miniatures, but you can get them direct from Adrian's Walls, and they're not very good, to be honest. Not surprisingly, they don't really fit very well on these figures. You can just about get them on, with the length of pole that you have available, but that's not a fault of Adrian's Walls, but the actual quality of the flags is very poor. They're on a very kind of cheap paper. I've put some sort of metal foil in there to try and allow me to make the flags curve a little bit, but the colouring just cracks and shows white through the minute you try and bend them. Even bending them around the flagpole, which you have to do, causes damage to the artwork. So you have to then get your paintbrush out and paint over the damage that you've done. A bit of a shame, but I have to find another. I've got a bit of a chip on that already, if I look at. Yeah, that one's managed to chip some paint off, so I have to get the paintbrush out, repair that. Yeah, but I'm pretty pleased with them. There's going to be hundreds of boxes on the table when I finally get an army together, so you're not really going to see the individual faults and blemishes and so on. Okay, and then there's one other bit of painting I've got done to show you. Okay, so last up then, I've painted a little bit more for the 2mm game of Strength and Honour. I'm building up armies to play the Battle of Watling Street scenario, and in that you need some skirmishers for the ancient Britons, and Project Wargaming, who I sort of acquire my STL files through to print them up on my 3D printer, do have skirmishers, but they're sort of generic skirmishers, so they're more suitable for things like the Roman army or Carthaginians or something like that. They're obviously, they look like they're throwing rocks or have slings or something like that. I wanted something that had more of the appearance of a Celtic army, and my feeling is that they probably, if they did skirmish, then they would have retained shields and spears, and maybe thrown the spears. I don't know. So in the end, I ended up printing some more of the warband groups, for the warbands that I used, and then just breaking them up into smaller groups. And the way Strength and Honour works is that you deploy the skirmishers as a block. This base here, when you're deploying the army, and then you can leave it like that and just play them all grouped together, or you can take this off of the table and replace it with 4 strips of skirmishers that you then put in front of adjacent blocks, you know, more sort of formal blocks of warbands and so on. So it gives that block an advantage, a slight advantage in melee and so on. So you need for one group of skirmishers, you need them in a block like that, and then in 4 strips like that, and you use either or in the game, but not both. And I probably won't be able to zoom in too easily, get them in focus, for you to be able to see, but they look, you know, from a distance they look quite realistic, I think. Obviously as you get closer, there's a lot less detail on them than there would be on a larger scale figure, but yeah, I think that mass effect really comes across in 2mm Wargaming. So all I need to do now is complete some light cavalry, which is very similar. You have a block and then you have 4 strips for light cavalry, and you can use, they have the skirmisher label, so you can use them as skirmishers or use them as a block. And yeah, that's my wargaming update. Not so much to talk about as I often have. Haven't made any sort of wargaming specific purchases. And I have been buying DVDs and books and so on, but not really of much kind of relevance to the wargaming side of my channel. So I won't show you those. So that is everything. Thanks very much for watching, and see you on the next video. Bye for now.